flip that over.
What's up, YouTube? I just had my pro debut at the Chicago Pro Show this weekend. Coming into the show, I was absolutely shredded. Justin, per usual, did an amazing job of getting me in shape. Uh, but definitely overcommitted to the rest of life and didn't put the time into things like presentation and posing that I need to. And, the overall feedback that I got from the show was that your conditioning was absolutely absurd. Definitely came in shape. Your presentation is really what knocked you down. And I think part of that was the presentation made me look small. Some of it was the posing coach I was working with had me in positions that just totally deflated my upper body, which is already small to begin with, like my front double in particular, which in women's physique is a really, really important pose. So we definitely had some issues coming into peak week. I was really, really flat. I had a hard time filling out. Justin, if you want to talk a little bit about that, that'd be neat to hear.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. I was really worried 4 days out, to be honest. Yeah, because the 4 day out pick, because I think I said that day was set in stone, and you sent the morning picks, and it ended up not being set in stone. But I was sweating it because I didn't think we were going to be able to fill you out, and I also was worried that you were going to push back because we had a lot of carbs, a lot of carbs. And so I was worried you were going to push back against that because I think we were over. Did we go over 100 grams on the 2 days out per meal at any point?
Yeah, we did. I had one meal that was like 125 or something like that. But
Yeah.
I
I mean,
knew, I knew getting up that day, I was like, I am so flat. Like, if he doesn't start filling me out today, there's no way I'm going to make it. I knew that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, I was a little worried because you're so focused on conditioning. I was worried you would be like, well, I don't want to, But yeah, we had your decently high carb plan 3 days out, and that went out the window. And we went like a full carb up 3 days out, and then even harder 2 days out. And then we were so typically at a day out by then. I want you full glycogen storage and saturated. We're not training. We're not burning off glycogen. All we have to worry about is drying out. But we were still filling out the first half of the day, a day out even. And so we didn't get to start the dry out process until, we reduced water intake, but we didn't start the dry out process till late in the day. I don't remember, what did we do? It was the meal 4, we did half a diazide or diet. Yeah, and I think we even added carbs then because I was like, okay, this is our last chance. Yeah, once this is in your system, we can't carb up anymore. So throw more carbs at it while you take this. And
I feel like I got super lean, and I felt like the last 3 weeks of prep, I was so flat perpetually. And I knew, like, as soon as you sent the peaking plan, I was like, I looked at Tuesday, and I think I told Dave, I was like, I think he's going to add more carbs to today.
Yeah, it's funny. I ate my words because I said Tuesday's set in stone. But
it's funny because I don't feel like I know that much about the peaking process, but just as an athlete, kind of knowing your body. And the one thing that Branch and Martin told me last week is they were like, "You are so flat. Please do not be afraid of food right now. Like you need to not." And I was like, "I just do whatever Justin tells me to do." And I think that it's going to be really interesting. So for just a TLDR, I ended up placing 9th at Chicago, which it was a really big lineup. There were some big girls there. And, when someone like Natalie comes in, Natalie Ray Wolf came in absolutely shredded. She looked incredible. Yeah. Ashley Jones jumped in last minute. She's just phenomenal. She's just an amazing athlete to watch. But when Natalie steps in and she's like, oh my God, I don't even know if I'm going to place. That's when it's a really strong lineup. But now we're going to be rolling into Tampa. And I'm really interested to see what this next peak looks like. One of the things I actually texted Justin about this morning was, so after the show, he kind of gives a 24-hour to 36-hour window to just basically eat. And I'm a really, really disgustingly good eater.
Yeah. I have a better appetite than almost anyone I've ever known. And I think Dani is one of the first people who, proportional to body weight, is even much better than I am. There have been cheat meals on prep when we're depleted where she probably eats as much as I do or close to it.
And so I got up this morning and one of the first things I did was text Justin and go, oh my God, do I have to cancel our flight to Tampa? All of my lines are gone. I'm holding all this extra water. Am I even going to be okay?
Right. And before Justin comes with the response that I think what I told her was, well, Justin's probably going to lay out the math in some level of detail as to know you can't have gained so much fat mathematically, physically possible, that we couldn't come back from it in 2 weeks.
Well, and like I knew that, like I think I'm usually pretty smart about things, and I know that it's like, you know, it's a thermodynamics thing. But there's the athlete brain that kicks on, right? And it's like I suffered hard to get that level of conditioning, and I think, and you called it right when I hit my first back double. I heard people go, "Holy shit!"
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it looked nasty. Like when I saw the pictures on stage, I was like, "Holy wow, that does look really good." It's about the only pose that day that looked good, but but that's okay.
No, your side poses look really solid too.
But when you've suffered to get that level of conditioning, and now I'm coming into Tampa and I'm sitting here like, how much did I ruin that? You know, and so there's the logic brain that knows that probably not much, but then the athlete brain is also like, well, I really want to bring in the same conditioning, because as the lineups change, who you're standing next to is going to make a big difference in how you're judged. And so in Chicago, these girls were big. I mean, they were just really, really big. And in Tampa, the lineup's looking really, really different, to where they're smaller builds, they're coming in more conditioned. And so I'm like, man, if I brought the package that I brought to Chicago to Tampa, how different would placing be?
what you just said is why the women's divisions are so hard. Mm-hmm. Like male bodybuilders, peaking a large male bodybuilder is hard. That's probably the hardest of all of them, is getting a 250-pound plus guy full and dry. But it's easy in that's all you have to worry about. Have him as big and as dry as possible. There's no other criteria. Every pro show, I mean, there's no like little pro show. Everybody's huge in every pro. The women, every show is different. And not only is every show different, but every division is an ever-evolving judging criteria. You know, like what, you know, figure is what physique was 6-7 years ago. You know, and physique is what women's bodybuilding was at one point. And then they tell you they want you to be not so hard, but then they reward hardness. And then, you know, they tell you going for a fuller, softer look, and they don't reward that. And then, you know, like when wellness first came out, it was really like everyone was expecting it to be like basically bikini light, which is now not at all. Right. Now the wellness girls are enormous. And so it's so hard, because it's not only do you have to nail a look, but you don't know what that look is every time.
Well, and then
it's very hard.
I was trying to explain to Dave too that like for the women's divisions, especially for physique, like you can't just walk on stage and hit your poses. Like you have to be, if you don't have a background as like a gymnast or a dancer or some sort of aesthetic sport athlete, like it matters. And Dave was like, "Does it really?" And I was like, "Yeah, 100%."
Yeah, like inappropriately amount, I think. I don't understand why, because I mean, and a little bit with the men, like Paul Dillette kind of got marked down for not being a good poser, but he was still like a Hall of Famer, you know, where like you guys have to have stage presence. If you don't look like the perfect combination of arrogance but not arrogant, and confident but not cocky, and you know, like you're so happy to be up there but not giddy. It's like really
right. Yeah, it's hard. And I think that, you know, for me, the thing that got me was the nerves, because I look at the posing video, my individual presentation I sent you last week, and I'm like, God, that looked really good. Like if I had hit that on stage, I think I would have done really, really well. But I went on right after Ashley Jones, and that is like, you watch her pose and you're like, God, how am I going to follow that? Like, there's just no way. She's stunning. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see kind of how Tampa goes. And it's just, even looking at the shows from earlier this year, I think if I brought what I did to Chicago to any other show this year, I would have placed very, very well. Like, very well. And then in Tampa, there are a couple girls coming in that are, you know, they just have genetically incredible shape. So I don't know how that's going to go. But
I still thought, I mean, I haven't seen the whole video really well, but I still thought you compared favorably. I thought.
No, my front double, the position that my posing coach had me in literally hid my upper body and made my waist look super thick and blocky. It's like, if I hit it perfectly, it looks great. But if I missed it at all, it looked terrible, and I couldn't hit it consistently.
Yeah, see, and that's what I saw. I didn't get to see everything. I saw and I saw like a rear double by is the one I keep seeing everywhere, and so that's like a very good shot. So that's it's hard to get a good perspective on that because you look like you could be top 3 in that shot.
Yeah.
There's some funny psychology that might go on here too, because I think originally you might have been like 7th before the night show, and like just barely missed the first call out.
Yeah.
But if they had overlooked the posing issues and rewarded your conditioning more, which I still kind of think they should have, then you might have been in the first call out. And then if you're in the first call out already and they're comparing you to the rest of those girls, who knows whether
I think I would have held
up to like 4th or 5th. You know, it's like,
I really think if I'd hit, so when I did my individual, the first pose I hit was my front double, and then I did a front leg crossover front double. So those first exposures, if I had hit those well, I would have been in first call out. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. So that's something I think coming into Tampa for sure.
Not to cut you off, but that's like a super important point that I think like anyone listening who ever wants to compete, you think the judges are analyzing every detail of every pose because that's what you do to yourself. The judges are human. They have like at the amateur level, you come out and do your comparison quarter turns. They have first call outs done there, you know, and they do. And so it's just like in school, you know, like if you get 100% on the first exam, you can breeze through the rest of the semester because the professor doesn't want to grade. If they're like, oh yeah, this person's smart, they barely check it and they give you the A. And it's the same thing. Your individual routine, your first pose has to be spot on, the best you can look, because that's 90% of what they judge you on. As unfair as it is, and because you know, and competitors will say like, I look down to the judges, we're talking to each other, not looking at me, and it's like, yeah, because they judged you already. They judged you that first pose. Then you know, you start to the front. Once you turn around to the side, like they'll get another good look at whatever your first side pose is. So make sure your first side pose is your best. If it's side chest, side tricep, whatever it is, that's after you hit that, then they're writing something down, they're not looking anymore. You go to the back, that first pose you hit from the back, that's what you're judged on. You get like 3 poses out of your individual routine that matter. And so people complain that the judges weren't looking at them, but that's just the way it is. They're judging those segments. And so that's why a front relaxed is so important, a front double by is so important, and whatever the first pose you hit, has to be a spot on pose, and everyone hits their most muscular at the end. The judges don't even judge that. I mean, they wrote down their notes. They might be looking at you, might not be looking at you.
Yeah, so I'm going to rework a couple of things for my individual quite a bit. I've already changed my front double, and I think it looks. I mean, you saw it this morning. It already looks about 10 times better. Some of it is because I'm fuller now. But I think the interesting thing for me as an athlete that I'd be really curious to hear your take on is like, you know, obviously today I got up and I texted you and I was like, oh my God, all my lines are gone. Like, am I going to be okay at Tampa? And you were like, Danny, like, did you eat 70,000 calories? And
you said yes.
Yeah. But, you know, it's always interesting, like how long, I guess selfishly, I'm like, okay, am I going to bring the same level of conditioning to Tampa that I brought to Chicago? Because I did a lot of extra walking today, I'm not going to lie.
I think you'll be even better. Some of my favorite peaks are a 2-week after a show peak.
Cool.
Back-to-back weeks are terrible, but 2 weeks are almost always perfect because, you know, we have to fill you out from just like death depletion that first show. And everyone always says like, you know, I'll eat into the show and you know, start filling out a little early, but you can just always be leaner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just always could be leaner. So when you make the call, like, oh yeah, you're lean enough, let's back. So you never do that. You push all the way, and then you do your best to fill out. Well, now that's all gone. We're not filling out 16 weeks or 18 weeks of dieting. We're filling out you're in shape. We're filling out a couple days of depletion, so we don't have to go. Because that was one of my worries was we were eating so much food. I was really worried we were going to be distended. And then we did, by the night show, we started to have some water over your abs. You know, and that's just unavoidable. You have all that food, all that sodium. It's all sitting right here for day after day after day. That's the first spot that's going to wash out, you know. And so we don't have to worry about any of that. We don't have to push I mean, we'll be able to push the fullness more without eating as much, you know. And then we can be a little more aggressive even with the drying out because we know we're not coming out of being so depleted.
Yeah, it was one of those things too where I don't know if I had my gallbladder taken out when I was 22 23.
I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that.
You never told him that? Oh.
I told. It was like probably after my first show. You're like, go get a burger, and I was like, can't. Can I get a chicken sandwich? And you were like, sure.
I do. Yeah, I do remember that now. Okay, yeah.
And so I almost wondered too if like the chips as a pump up food for me are just
Yep, I would.
slow digesting.
Yeah, I would change that. We'll change that now. We will probably do less fats the day before, at one day out. Also, we'll bring the calories up through different things. Probably protein.
You feel like even the almond butter was too much fat?
No, I do fine on almond butter. It's just in like nut butters. But it's just like
that shitty oil that they fry chips in. And...
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like I don't even eat that much of it, but I just feel super distended after. And it was one of those things too where again, like I went through my poses and I was like, that doesn't even look like me. Like it looks like I'm not even in shape there, except that you can see my glute striations, which is super weird. But like there's a picture of Dave and I after the show just standing next to each other, and I'm like, good God, my glutes are so in shape there. Like how did that not show on stage?
It did. Yeah. I mean, you had feathering through your lats, all the way through your lats.
I kept telling her when before, I mean days out before she even had a tan, we'd take pictures and the lighting in our house isn't amazing. And she'd be like, well, it's not coming out very well. Like, you need to send videos because as you move, you're seeing the fasciculations in your glutes just moving around, not even really flexing them or not trying to flex them.
Well,
yeah, you could see them stand. There was one of the videos you sent. I can't remember if you had your tan on yet or not, but the thumbnail of the video was, I think you were 3/4 turn or something, and you were relaxed, and you could still see lines in your glutes.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
So now, as an athlete too, and this is for people who are doing multiple shows, there's always the question of let's say you have the 1 day refeed, and again, I could spell out everything I ate, and I think I would disgust anyone who's watching.
I think you should.
Yeah.
People love that stuff.
All right.
So right after the show,
first thing I did was have 2 pieces of chocolate cake, cookie, homemade cookies. I had a candy bar. We went to Cheesecake Factory. I had a bunch of bread. I had some pizza. Went to Chick-fil-A. Chicken sandwich, fries, bowl of cereal because I'm a cereal whore. All the good ones are. I forgot.
We went to Chick-fil-A for her because sometimes even Cheesecake Factory can't manage.
They can't make a chicken sandwich. But then Saturday morning was when things got real crazy. So Saturday morning, I went to breakfast by myself, and I showed up at this diner, and this lady's she's thinking this my stage weight was 122. I was freaking tiny. So I show up, and she's thinking I'm gonna get half a stack of pancakes. I ordered cinnamon roll pancakes, plain pancakes, banana pecan pancakes.
Was it multiples?
Yeah, side of bacon, Belgian waffle, side of peanut butter, side of chocolate chips, extra whipped cream, a cookie butter latte, maple syrup. Came home and had 2 more bowls of cereal, half a pack of Sour Patch Kids. This is just breakfast. Do you see now where I got up today and I was worried? I was like, oh God, how much of my conditioning did I lose?
I'm surprised you got up. I'm surprised you're not in a coma.
And then we went to Cheesecake Factory again.
An insulin coma.
And then we went to Cheesecake Factory, had a bunch of bread, had a chicken sandwich and fries, we had carrot cake. I only ate probably, a third of the carrot cake?
Yeah, probably.
More cookies than I make from home because I love to bake, and every time I get baked goods somewhere, I'm always disappointed, and I'm like, mine are better. Had more. Ate more at the airport. I feel like. We have United Club passes, which means complimentary wine, so I had a couple glasses of wine.
Yeah, you had some wine. You didn't have a ton of other food at the airport.
I munched quite a bit.
Yeah, you munched on random stuff. Had a little bit more cookie, and then on the plane they had little meal they give you.
The plane meal that I never get to eat. And so I was like, I'm going to eat it just because I can. And because at that point I was like, I don't know if I'm doing another show. And if I'm being honest, I was so disappointed in myself. I was so disappointed in my placing. Not because of the placing, but because the reason I placed poorly was something that I had 100% control over that day and just didn't perform on. And this was, quite frankly, the first time in my life that I have underperformed on something that mattered to me. And it was it felt awful. This is the first time I've done something that I really felt like I failed. That felt awful. I felt like I let you down as a coach because you brought me in so conditioned.
Oh no, as a coach, it's conditioning. I mean, I'm not opposing coach. I don't. It's I'm really, even as a coach, I'm like Dave. I mean, I want my people like to do well, placing, but I know all you and I can control is your conditioning and on stage. That's all we control. And I couldn't have been prouder for that. So
Well, I was obviously stoked at the conditioning. Like every time I went anywhere, that was what people noticed, which was great. It was, it was really cool to get that feedback at a pro debut, to have people come in and say, "Holy crap, your conditioning!" And they were like, "Who coaches you?" And I said, "Justin," which is really neat. But again, like as an athlete, I didn't put the time into my posing and presentation because I kept saying yes to so many other things in life. And I think what people don't maybe realize is they think people who coach have this like super cushy, like we can do whatever we want whenever we want. And like it's true to some extent, but at the same time, if you really care about your clients, you end up over delivering 11 out of 10 times.
Right.
And especially if you're someone like me who's dealing with people who are in pain and hurt and feel like there's always like a fire to put out, like, oh my God, I can't get out of bed because my back hurts so bad. What do I do? And I'm like, okay, here we go. Like
11:38 p.m. on a Sunday
exactly.
too.
And
the way I've put it to her before, I think she realizes already, but it's like when you have that kind of, that's the kind of relationship you typically only have with a few people in your community, that kind of like close relationship where you care about them that much. But this is the internet, and so like 50 people have that kind of access to her. So schedule flexibility doesn't mean much when you have that many people relying on you.
And again, like I think that there are a lot of coaches who, I don't want to say they phone it in, but they probably do a better job of drawing boundaries, and I need to get better at that because that was why I didn't put the time into posing that I needed to. And now I look back at it and I feel like I just let myself down. And again, like for someone who, it was good. We were sitting at lunch on Saturday and Dave was like, "Oh, so now you know what it's like to like be human and actually like struggle at something." And I was like, "That really doesn't feel good." So I think coming into Tampa, now the debut is done, I'm actually going to like have fun with it and be a lot more confident with it. And I think that in and of itself is going to make a big difference. But yeah, it's hard. I think when you care about, you don't ever want to be one dimensional. You never want to be the bodybuilder that only competes in bodybuilding, because again, at some point this is all going to be done. And the legacy that I leave and the impact that I have on people is so much more than just what did I do on stage. People forget about placings about a week after the show, right? Like no one remembers that. But people definitely remember how you made them feel. People remember what kind of impact you left on them, and they remember what they learned from you. They remember the little tidbits of wisdom and knowledge that you've given them. And I feel like in an industry where, as coaches, we're given such a unique opportunity to lift people higher, I never want to do life in a way that doesn't actually lift people higher. I want my energy to go there. But for the next 2 weeks, it needs to not.
Yeah, it's hard though because it's like a coaching relationship like that is really pretty equal. Well, they're giving that to you, one person. You're giving that to every client. It's a lot.
Yeah, I spend probably on most of my clients, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours per week per client. It's a lot.
Oh yeah, oh, I'm sure I would bet more. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think people don't realize that the time. I mean, I think they really don't, because someone will send an email, like 11:30 p.m. on a Sunday, and they'll think, like, well, it's just a quick email, and it's like, no, I mean, because I might have to reference what we've been doing in the past, and I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, so I'm going to go to my office. I'm going to log onto the drive. I'm going to read through your client notes, and so the 5-line email response I give doesn't seem very much, but I needed to make sure I said the right things, in referencing what we've done in the past. It's really more involved, I think, than every coach listening is nodding their head right now. But I think because it's the same thing. Like the clients, like if you're a good coach, the clients feel like they're your only client, and which means that like they're giving you a lot, which is good, but they're giving one person that much. You're giving you're have that same thing with many clients. It's a lot. It's a great. I mean, I wouldn't want to do anything else, but it's a lot.
And I think especially like, I don't know if you feel this way, but I'm not cheap to work with. So because my prices are pretty high, I feel like I have to over deliver.
Yeah.
And
no, I understand. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So.
But even then, if you really do, it's not though, because if you ever run the numbers, it's like, okay, I'm basically available 24 hours a day. I mean, I am. If like during peak weeks, well, which is every week. So basically from this time of year, because like this year, last week I had people competing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Because I had Joe Persanti took second in the Masters on Saturday at the Pro also. And then I had Masters Nationals, and I had, women and men of Masters. So I had, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Well, I'm doing, like, I get up at like 1 or 3 every one of those nights, because the night before to check, I just do it for a panic email check. Because if I don't, and someone's sending me that panic text at 1 a.m. or 3 a.m., that's all they remember, is that they had a catastrophe at 3 a.m. the morning of their show, and I wasn't there to answer it. So I set the alarm, and but that's 3 days a week, really from April through basically September. Well, April through late July, and then September through November, pretty much, the big contest seasons. But so if you break it down, you're basically 24 hours a day. So even if you charge $300 a month, there's a lot of hours in a month. You're basically working for like 50 cents an hour.
Yeah, I have designated like office hours, and I just recently got a separate cell line just for client work, just to create a little bit more space. But all my clients still text me on my old phone, so it's like, oh, what am I paying for that for? Because they all think they're the one, and I'm like, oh god, I love you guys. Like, I truly feel so blessed to be able to do this and not be sitting in a clinic documenting for Medicare. But it is just kind of like, it's. I had someone text me. I left my client phone here last week, but I had someone text me Thursday night. Hey, I'm wondering why, XYZ. I know you're competing tomorrow. Good luck. And I was like, you're kidding, right? Like, you have to actually be kidding me right now.
Yeah. And even if you like, let's say, well, just answer it after the show, but that's stuck in your brain. It's weighing on you. It's like I get that all the time. I'll be in bed, like drifting off, like checking my, like just goofing on my phone on Instagram or Reddit or something, and that banner comes up, and it's like, don't look, but you look and read it, and it's like, no, that's a morning problem. But then you're thinking about it. It's like, you know what? Screw it. All right, fine. I'll go answer it.
Yeah, it's such a blessing and a curse, I think, because we care so much about the people we work with. And it's part of why our people consistently do well. And at the same time, it comes at a cost. And that's something that I've had to talk about a lot with Dave. It's just, do we get to say hi to our kiddos?
Yeah, no, because she's naked.
Oh, okay. I'm going to guess it's Cora then?
No, it's Jory.
Oh.
No, it's Cora. Cora, you can say hi, just don't come on screen. She found a ladybug, I think.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, no, she had it in the jewelry, a little ring box or whatever.
Nice.
So, yeah, I'm sure it's dead now, but.
But yeah.
Oh yeah, it's dead. I just heard it. She dropped the jewelry box.
Anything else about the show? I mean,
no, I don't think so. I mean,
so I guess for people listening, what we'll do, if anyone's wondering how to peak for like back-to-back shows with a 2-week break, that's the optimal time. It's like it's the best peak you'll ever have. Because
maybe we should vlog the next peak since we'll be in Tampa. Dave has a week off work.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
do that.
Yeah. So like back-to-back peaks are tough. You have to do things differently for that. For this is almost better. You'll fill out more easily. We're not trying to fill out from that hyper depleted state, because there's that weird, like, your metabolism. It's really weird because your metabolism isn't revving because your calories are so low, but somehow it's like it accelerates faster than the food does. So it takes more than it should, like mathematically.
Oh, yeah. I think on Tuesday was supposed to be the day where it was like, I think my first 3 meals were like 25 carbs, and then after that it was like 10. I ended up having like 350 carbs that day, plus added fats, which was like a medium off-season day for me. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, and we were still completely flat.
And then Wednesday morning, I had 150 carbs my first meal. It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was. Well, I'm glad you knew. I mean, clients always know when they're flat. They're like you're probably a better judge about that than I am because you can feel it, you know. But I always worry like,
and even getting on stage, like I look at my photos and I'm like, I still had no pop, like none of my.
yeah, we could have. At that point it was just we're getting distended. Well, we tried to push it a little more between shows, but it was we could have done it. We could have did a full 3-day carb up, and I kind of knew it was. I think maybe did we even talk about on one of the podcasts where we were debating adding carbs to one of your days or something?
You mentioned that we were like Wednesday we're probably going to add some, but I think we added way more than you anticipated because it was after I had that high day where I was like, I posed with Branch and Martin on Friday and they were like, you need to eat.
It was the last podcast because you said you were going to maybe give her some extra carbs over usual high day and you didn't, but I think you ate them anyway.
I ate like.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I was debating and I ended up not adding it to your plan, which probably was a mistake. I mean, I think we still peaked well, but yeah, it's hard because like when someone's conditioning is that good, it's like, God, you want to ride that train, you know.
But you think we can still bring that to Tampa?
Oh yeah, we'll be better at Tampa. Right. Yeah, because we don't have to recover from.
I'm not gonna
lie, we're the same body fat, only not depleted. It's perfect. I
feel like I added body fat, and I literally was on the treadmill today, like trying to estimate how many calories I ate over my BMR, and was like, okay, how much do I have to walk? And I want to clarify for everyone. When I texted Justin this morning, he said you don't need to do anything. If you want to walk to get the extra water off, you can. If you're uncomfortable, that's totally fine. But me being a crazy person, because I really want to do well, and I feel like I need to like redeem myself for me. I want to bring the same conditioning. I walked 2.5 hours on the treadmill today.
Oh man. Well, your face is already much leaner than I was expecting. I thought I was going to get to make a comment about your puffy face.
I feel like it's still puffy. When I finished, I finished that entire breakfast. By the way, the waitress came over and was like, "I think I'm impressed, but I'm not really sure." I was like,
more scared.
That's more than I realized you had. I think I one of each kind of pancake.
I didn't tell you about the waffle either.
You didn't tell me. Yeah, why not?
I was a little ashamed.
It's not like I'm still in prep. I'm not going to get jealous.
But is it pretty safe to assume we're probably not going to do Texas at this point the week after Tampa?
We could. I mean, it's. I mean, that's hard. A third show is hard. But oddly enough, it's almost better. Well, not almost better, but back-to-back shows as a second chunk of shows isn't quite as bad because your appetite isn't going to be so outrageous. You won't like that one day of eating won't be quite as absurd. It'll still be pretty crazy.
I feel like even just using if we dry out harder this time, which I hope we do. I think the water rebound from that is probably going to be more intense. And if I'm being honest, the lineup at Texas just looks super aggressive. I think if we do, I think if we do a third show this year, it would be better to do one a little later on if possible. But
yeah, that's fine. I mean, and I'd focus on the show at hand anyways. But we can push the dryness harder because we're not like going such an extreme. You know, we barely get you filled out. If we were to really push the dryness, and plus we were still filling. We didn't have time. We were still filling out until halfway through the day on a day out.
Yeah. I'm excited too because for Tampa, finals aren't at 5 p.m. They're at like 2. Because that was the hard thing too. Is I think the other shows I've done with you, I had 20 ounces of water after prejudging and having to keep it at 6 ounces. I think I texted you, Dave, and I was like, "Oh man."
Well, I almost gave you more, but I was hoping there'd be maybe a chance at a rejudge, and because we didn't really have feedback yet. We thought it was a fullness thing, so we would try to push the fullness a little bit more.
Yeah.
It turns out it didn't matter. But you only know what you know at the time. Probably, but the bigger the show, the more likely the rejudge. And it's rarely for a 5th place. It's usually for a top 3 placing. But it happens at like the Arnold or the Olympia fairly often. Not fairly often, but it happens. At least once every 5 years. Where like someone in 3rd will get up to 2nd or even all the way to 1st, and it's always controversial. But it never really happens in the amateur, but it does happen in the pros.
Well, we will try to vlog maybe that peak week. Just kind of see how that goes. We're flying out Monday. We're gonna just hang out. Dave is taking a week off work because he did get a new job, which is great.
Yeah. 2 weeks off.
So we're just gonna hang out in Tampa for the week. If anyone is in that area and wants to get some food with Dave.
Well, I'm introverted. This is getting a little.
Yeah, a bunch of people from Destination are gonna be there.
Give them your what's the address you're saying?
Well, you can have that.
No, on Tuesday I will have a high day at a cheat meal. So if anyone wants to go all you can eat sushi with me, then yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I know Bagley's flying in Thursday with Keenan.
Yeah, he's not there. He's not there in time.
A bunch of people from Destination are coming out on Thursday, so that'll be fun too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Well, see y'all soon.
For more content like this, visit www.teamtroponin.com.
This video is brought to you by First Attachment Nutrition, battle-tested nutrition, expert formulated supplements. Join the First Attachment revolution.